So now I'm going to switch into my Sage 100 and just kind of take you through what that looks like on the Sage side, and so you can see how much this really integrates into the system and doesn't create a lot of extra work for you in order to give your customers the ability to do this. So the Click2Pay integration does start at the customer level. So I'm going to open up customer Brandi here. And when I come over onto the right, you can see I have this new entry here in the More button called Paya Options. Now, this is where I'm basically going to tell the system how this customer is going to communicate and interact with Click2Pay. I'm actually going to start in the middle of the screen here. You can see where I'm telling it what types of documents this customer would like to integrate into Click2Pay. That's going to be invoices, so that's AR invoices or sales order invoices or both. It's any invoice in the system. We will automatically sync those if that check mark is on. Sales orders and sales quotes. So you actually can take both full payments and pre-authorizations on sales orders. You'll notice there's a default here for whether or not we want to do a pre-auth. And so you don't lose that functionality when you go to Click2Pay. Customers can still do a pre-authorization and initiate that on their side instead of you guys having to do it inside of the sales order module manually, like you would today if you were using the native integration. You also have the ability to sync up the statements. Now we do keep that document separate because it is a part of the premium suite. So we don't include it in like the major document activations there. So we keep it so that it's on its own, but you do have the ability to sync statements up as well. And then I'm actually going to pop up to these payment restrictions. What's really nice is those of you who process payments through Sage 100 today using the native processing will know, ultimately you guys are the gatekeeper on, what types of payments you accept from a particular customer. If they call and they want to use a credit card and you don't take credit cards from that particular customer for whatever reason, you have the ability to say, no, Mr. Customer, I can't do that. I apologize. I have to take, e-checker or ACH information. We had to make sure that we maintained that control when we shifted that labor onto the customer and gave them the ability to initiate some of that, that payment activity. So what you have the ability to do on a customer by customer basis is actually tell the system, hey, customer Brandi has had a chargeback in the past. I'm no longer going to accept credit cards from her. And you can actually restrict that one payment method. Now, this is frictionless for you guys because we're not going to put credit card option on the screen and gray it out. The customer is not going to know that we have eliminated credit cards from them, except for the fact that it's just not available. When they go out to their portal or they go out to their anonymous link, they are going to go ahead and only see that ACH option available to them. So we try to make it so that we're not causing any conflict between you and your customer while still maintaining the ability for you to have that control over what methods they're actually allowed to use. Now, once we have this set up, our customers now, as we enter new transactions for them, are going to default into Click2Pay. So if I come out here and enter a new invoice, and let's select customer Brandi here, and let's sell her some trunk maintenance today. When I come over the totals tab, my Click2Pay checkbox is going to default on based on my settings in the customer. Now, the cool part about this button is that it can be turned off at the time of entry if we need to. So the great part about it is if I check this off, if I can check this, there we go. What's going to happen is this invoice is now just a regular invoice. Click2Pay is not going to intervene. It's not going to upload this invoice. It is simply going to be an invoice like normal inside of Sage 100. And I can treat that however I choose to. I can do my native processing against it. I can do it later inside of cash receipt. Whatever I want to do, this is now just a normal invoice inside of Sage 100. If I do check that on, though, that tells the system that I do want this particular invoice to sync into Click2Pay. Now, I'm not having to do anything special to make that happen. I do have this button on the screen. I don't have to press it. I use it for my demos so you guys can see what's happening. But ultimately, whoever's doing the data entry, whether it's here in invoice data entry, sales order invoice data entry, or sales order entry, This Click to Pay checkbox is going to default based on what's set up for the customer, and anything that I do to save this document is going to click off Click to Pay. Whether I hit accept here, whether I do a quick print of the invoice. In sales order, if I was going to go straight to printing the picking sheet, anything that saves this order or invoice is going to kick off Click to Pay. Now, I am going to use the send a Click to Pay button just so that you guys can see this on screen. So what's going to happen is the system is going to save my invoice. It is going to kick off a PDF print of this particular invoice, and it's going to use my crystal report inside of Sage 100. So it's going to make sure that it's using my form. It's going to be logoed to me. However you would normally print this off to a printer is how that PDF is going to kick off today. You can see down here at the bottom, it has told me, the system has told me from red X to green check that that invoice is now synced to Click to Pay. So what does that really mean? That means that this invoice is now available online. It means that the PDF that was printed is also attached to that. So the customer will be able to see that every step of the way. And it means I have what's called an anonymous link. So if I hover over this for just a second, you're going to see a big, randomly generated link. Now, this is a one-to-one link for this particular invoice. Now, what a lot of our merchants are doing today is they're using the native paperless office to go ahead and do an electronic delivery to their customer with that invoice information. Now, I don't want you guys to have to wait for my email system to send and receive a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to show you one that I did a couple of weeks ago for another webinar. But what you can see is, we have a template email that basically goes out and says, hey, you have a new invoice on your account. You guys get to decide what all of this template information says, all of that standardized wording that you're used to using. The most important part here, number one, it's going to include that PDF. Number two, we're going to hide that anonymous link right here behind that Pay Now button. So what we're doing is we're actually delivering that payment link directly into the customer's email. So when they click on that, what they're going to do is be taken to, oops, let me grab that again. They're going to be taken to their payment page. So this is, again, a one-to-one link for the invoice that we just entered. We can see the total amount of that invoice here is $85. I can actually view that PDF file. So it's going to show me a formatted, well, mine's not particularly pretty, but it is going to show me that formatted invoice so that I can see that. And I can go ahead and select the Pay Now button, and the system is going to show me as the customer what I'm paying and give me the opportunity to do what's basically a guest checkout, right? I didn't have to log in to do this. I don't have to have a Click to Pay account in order to access this. I just have to have my link, and everything that needs to be associated with that in the ERP is already done. Now, I do want to point out right here, there's an extra line that you're seeing here. This is our fee recovery. So this is part of the premium system. It's probably the most popular piece of the premium system. This is where we can actually dictate to the Sage 100 system that we want to calculate a, let's say, 3%. I think that's what mine is set to, a 3% charge for anybody who's using credit card. As you can see, that is universal. It will automatically assess when the customer has selected the credit card payment type. It's automatically going to do that calculation, and it's going to be fully transparent to them that this is happening. They're going to be able to see this line every step of the way here on the payment screen. They're going to see it on their receipt. And of course, we're going to bring that back into your Sage, with the proper accounting. So we're going to make sure that gets posted properly in your system. Now, if you want to incentivize other types of payment methods, you can have a fee recovery on your credit card and not on your ACH. Or you can do like I have in my test system. I just made the flat fee of $1.50 for ACH. Conceivably that's going to be less than the 3% that the customer is going to be charged on a credit card, especially as those balances get higher on those invoices, right? So customers can enter their payment information, their billing address. They will have to pass a CAPTCHA anytime in any of our screens for Click to Pay where we're taking payment information or updating payment information. We are going to see this CAPTCHA. They do have to pass that in order to submit their payment. Now, instead of paying this through the anonymous link, I'm actually going to cancel out and I'm going to sign into my Click2Pay account. My customer does have a Click2Pay account. I am going to sign in as customer Brandi just to show you guys the customer experience from that side of it. Now, Click2Pay accounts are optional. Like I said, everybody can process through the anonymous links without signing in. If you don't want your customers to have a portal account, you don't have to allow that. That's completely up to you guys as the merchant. However, they get a lot of functionality in here, and there can be some great boons to you guys for making sure that they have the ability to do some of that labor that we were talking about earlier. So on the landing page of the customer, they are going to see a breakdown of all of their unpaid charges, whether that's in the form of invoices or sales orders, or if you're using the premium system, statements that have been updated. And in addition to that, they are going to be able to see the last 5 payments that they have processed through Click2Pay. Now, anytime a customer processes through Click2Pay, we are going to send them a receipt. So they do have the option of getting that. If they, lose it, they delete the email, whatever happens, they can't find it. Instead of calling you guys to get a copy of that receipt, they can actually come out to their Click2Pay portal and re-download that receipt on demand. So the system's going to regenerate that for them. And I apologize, my internet is a little slow today. The system's going to regenerate that for them. They're going to be able to see exactly what they saw when they processed that that transaction through Click2Pay. They're going to see the information about which invoices they paid, the subtotal amount of that. Again, there's that fully transparent fee recovery. And we're going to give them all of that information. So they'll be able to download that PDF and save that wherever they need to on demand. Now, if they need to go back further than the last 5 payments, they do have a My Payments tab over here on the left. So we can come out here and see as the customer all of the transactions that we've run through Click2Pay. Now, this is really cool because it's going to give your customers the ability to do a little bit of research if they have any questions about transactions that have gone through. So let's say, I'm customer Brandi. I'm, working on reconciling my October AP to my October credit card statement. And I have this $7.23 charge that I don't recognize. I just don't know what it is. I can't make it add up, but whatever. I can come out to Click2Pay. I can locate that transaction and I can actually drill down into it and view the individual invoices that I paid on that transaction. So I'm going to see the total invoice amount that I paid. I'm going to see the total fee recovery that I paid, and there's that total charge. So as I'm going through my AP and I go, oh gosh, I must have missed invoice number 122. I don't know what that is. I can actually click through and we still have the ability to view that original PDF with that invoice information on it and the actual transaction that was posted there. So I have the ability to now enter that into my AP. I can see what that transaction was and get everything all balanced out the way that I need to. Now, I know, anybody who's working in AR, we all have received those calls. Oh, I don't understand this transaction. Oh, can you help me go through my account to identify these invoices, things like that. Once you have Click2Pay enabled and customers can get into these, invoices and all of their payments and all of their transactions that have been processed against their account, they're going to be able to do a lot of that research on their own and kind of take the onus off of you guys. Now, in addition to that, customers do have the ability to enter, store, and maintain all of their own payment information. That is an unlimited number of ACH or credit card accounts that they can attach to their Click2Pay system. And what's going to happen is as customers use these payment methods inside of Click2Pay, we're actually going to sync that into your Sage 100 system as well. So any of you who are used to vaulting credit cards today, you no longer have to do that manually. Click2Pay can actually maintain those for us and then just bring in the vaulted credit card and save it into your customer account in Sage. You never have to write down credit card or routing information on a Post-it again. Don't worry, we've all done it. And the customer can actually enter and maintain those. And this is great because if a customer has a card canceled due to fraud activity and they need to delete that payment, they don't have to call you to do that. They can do that within their own Click2Pay system and handle that on their own, enter the new card and use it going forward. And you'll get all of that update as well. Now, let's get to the heart of what's happening inside of Click2Pay here. Inside of the My Activity tab, this is where customers are going to be able to view the information associated with their account. Now, that's going to include invoices, credit memos, prepayments, negative invoices. We are going to see the ability to see that as well. I know some people do negative invoices instead of credit memos. It happens. So what you're going to see here is a really comprehensive look at what's outstanding for this customer. Now, the really neat part about this is customers can actually use their credits to offset balances. Now, what they can't do, what you're going to notice, as long as my amount selected is negative, I can't do anything with this. Customers are never going to be able to initiate their own refunds. So we're not going to let them select this $377 and credit it back to their credit card. If you guys want to release those funds and push them to the credit card as a refund, you do have the ability to do that inside of Sage 100. But we're never going to let the customer initiate that. They can, however, use their credits to offset payment balances. So we can see here where it's lowered this $579 invoice down to $202, and the customer can then process a payment against the balance. It's neat though, because customers, you can see, can select multiple invoices here and push those through however they'd like. They can, process those payments. We can go ahead and begin payment. We are going to see a very similar payment page to what we saw on the anonymous link. However, I now have the ability to use a saved card and have it default my information in. So again, we're going to be super transparent on that fee recovery. The customer is always going to know what their actual transaction amount is going to be. We can go ahead and pass the CAPTCHA, and of course, it wants to torture me today. And we can go ahead and submit payment. Now, this is going to run through your Paya gateway. Whether you're a new merchant or an existing merchant, your Paya gateway is where all of that processing is going to happen. Click2Pay transactions inside of Sage native transactions and virtual terminal transactions will all run through your Paya gateway. The system is going to tell the customer whether or not this payment was successful or not, and it's going to show them all of the information about that, the transaction number. A receipt is always going to be sent to you as the merchant and the customer. So you guys both get a copy of that. So you always know when there's been a transaction processed against one of your customer accounts. Now, as far as the customer is concerned, they have paid their invoices. They are ready to go. And we can go back into Sage 100 and we can actually import that information. Now, Click2Pay uses real-time DLLs, so we always know where that payment sits. It's going to show up as what we call an unsynced transaction. We can see that information here, and you can see where I had a couple of transactions a couple of days ago. I had some transactions processed yesterday, and I had some processed in today. So I do have the ability to see all of these transactions. Now, in my case, what I tend to do is I wait until my batch is settled and Paya has funded my transactions before I bring them into Click2Pay, or I'm sorry, before I bring them into Sage 100. That lets you operate on sort of a pseudo cash basis, and you always know any entries that have a cash receipt have been reconciled. You know that those have funded, and you've basically auto reconciled them. But I can come out here and I can select as many of these entries as I like, and I can go ahead and create the cash receipt for that. Now, just so that you guys know, this does not have to be a manual process. I use this screen because I like to show you, what this all looks like in the background. We can automate the cash receipt process to where, using scheduled tasks within Sage 100, we actually auto-generate that cash receipt if you want us to. So it's completely up to you how much control you want over that cash receipt entry process. But what I can do is I can click proceed, and the system's going to go through it. It's going to make sure that it can create that cash receipt. So what you're going to notice is 2 of those entries went through. One of them did not, and it has a little hazard sign here. And it's going to tell me why. So I have a little note up here that says, hey, your customer made a payment on an invoice that you haven't updated yet before I create the cash receipt. go update that invoice. So we are putting measures in place to make sure that we can successfully create that cash receipt without creating any extra work for you. We're not just going to turn that into a prepayment and let it go through. We are going to make sure that we are properly processing that cash receipt for you in the most efficient way. Now, the two cash receipts that it did create for me, conceivably, I don't have to go out to cash receipts to look at, but I can. So I can come out into cash receipts entry. What you're going to notice is my auto-generated batches are automatically commented with Click2Pay. So I know already that that's my Click2Pay batch. And I can see each of the individual transactions that has been posted in here. So I can come out into here. You can see those of you who use the integrated credit card processing today, we're going to bring this transaction in exactly as it would appear inside of your Sage system if you had processed it through the native processing. So it's going to select that customer. It's going to come in as a credit card. I am going to be able to see the individual invoices that were paid with that. And I'm going to be able to see that processing fee recovery going to a specific GL account that is user defined. You guys get to decide where that posts to in the general ledger so that that is fully accounted for inside of your GL. On the payments tab, again, this is going to look really familiar to those of you who use the native processing. We have filled out the information for this payment, including the token, the authorization number, and the transaction ID, exactly as we would have if you had processed this through the native processing. And that means that even though the customer initiated this payment through Click2Pay and you guys did not have to touch any of that information, everything that you're used to seeing saved within your payment history in Sage is going to be saved here as well. So this becomes a great way for you to be able to save all of that information, get it all posted back inside of Sage exactly as it would today, without having to do the labor associated with it. And that's how we bring everything full circle back into Sage 100 and make sure that it's fully accounted for. Your customers' accounts are updated, your GL is updated, your cash is updated. We have processed everything for that invoice through from start to finish, and we've kind of closed the loop by bringing everything back into Sage.